Hi everyone, my name is Erin Meyer. I am the Sustainable Food Programs Coordinator here at UC Merced. First of all, happy Earth Month. Final couple of days of Earth Month, so excited about it. I hope that we're celebrating well. Last week was Earth Day, we had a fun little improv session. And then today we have a panel on climate activism. So I wanted to just take a moment and we can just go around. It might be easier if I start at the top of our little list. Have you briefly say your name, probably where you're coming in from as a panelist, and a little bit about yourself and your work. So Lana, would you like to go ahead and start? Oh, Lana, can you hear us?
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's pronounced Lana, but
oh,
it's very
Lana.
nice to meet
I'm
you.
sorry. Lana.
Yes, so happy to start. I am a coordinator of food systems policy at 0 Hour and have been involved in climate justice, such as with organizations like 0 Hour, with organizing some of the climate strikes, particularly around Washington, D.C., an area that I've been in for a few years. And in general, my work concentrates in the intersection of food systems and climate as well. So really excited to be here and to be joining.
Awesome. Thank you. I already have questions for you. All right, how about Giselle?
Hi, my name is Giselle. I'm 16 years old. I'm from Sonoma, California, but I'm currently calling in from my school in Santa Rosa, California. And I am a student leader of Schools for Climate Action. And my work has really been centered around the mental health effects of climate change on youth, just because in my area, we've had fires since 2017 yearly, hopefully not this year, but it's just been such a toll on my community. So me and a friend and I, we decided we wanted to do some research into this, and with the help of the rest of our organization, we ended up writing a resolution about the mental health effects of climate change on youth. It's now HRES 975 and was introduced last month into the House, which was super exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm also in California, so props to you. Very cool, thank you. All right, Shay.
Yeah, hi everyone, great to be here. My name's Shay, I'm 17, I'm from Northern California on Ramaytush Ohlone land, and I am a member of the Youth Leadership and Ocean Protection Organization, Heirs to Our Oceans. I've done some work within that organization on an initiative that's specifically focused on agriculture, and I've done a lot of work on food and farming in a lot of ranches in my community. And yeah, it's great to be here with you all.
Thank you. Again, apologies if I get anyone's name wrong. I'm not added to my resume being good at pronouncing names because I'm not very good at it at all. Alrighty, so and then this one's not going to be great either. And you already said it. Kainoa?
Yes, aloha. My name is Kainoa, hail from this island of Oahu, in the island chain or Pai'aina of Hawaii. Currently illegally occupied Hawaiian Kingdom lands by the United States. I think when it comes to my sort of background, it was one out of necessity. You know, there's so many issues. Hawaii is like the extinction capital of the world. Among many other things, my islands got over 1,000 gallons of fuel in our drinking water by the United States military. So for us, all of these changes dealing with the ocean rising and even impacting in policy and different areas, international and so forth, has really come out of a necessity to deal with the change that we're living. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of action.
Absolutely. That's such an interesting way to put it. Extinction capital of the world. Both interesting and really, really depressing. So thank you for your work. All right. So Lydia. Do you go by Latifah?
Yeah, even Lydia works. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Nansubuga Lydia Latifah, an advocate from Uganda, working with Heirs to Our Ocean as a youth leader in Uganda. I advocate for the rights of girls to education and ending child marriages, but also a climate advocate, forwarding a project of climate smart urban farming for climate action. This is something I have done. For starters, it wasn't a specific solution to food insecurities being brought about climate crisis in Africa and in Uganda. I just did it to escape a problem that I was nearly facing. That was my unwanted marriage at the age of 13. It being a fact that I am a girl advocate, I wanted to live and lead by example. So marrying me off just because we lacked food due to climate crisis causing hunger was not the solution. So I wanted to continuously lead by example and be a girl advocate for our rights to education and ending child marriages by creating a solution to the problem that was nearly leading me into marriage, that was hunger. So I provided food using the very things that are polluting our natural environment, planting food in plastics, creating an income generating source. So through that, I realized and related the two, climate crisis and child marriages. So I saw that if we have to bring up urban farming as a solution, it's going to solve the two. It's going to put an end to child marriages because food will be provided due to hunger, and it's also going to help us achieve climate justice. So that is something that I have done and I'm doing, and I look forward to training and teaching everyone out there who is willing to learn, so has to bring about climate justice. And I'm currently in California, though I'm from Uganda, East Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, super cool. Yeah, I want to give like snaps and thumbs up and like fingers. That's really cool. And I have questions already for that, so that's awesome. All right, Nolene.
Hi everyone. Nolan, like it's more in French. But so I'm Nolan, I'm from France. I'm 22 years old. I graduate from Law and Political Science Studies. I did an internship at Parents like this year, 6 months in California to learn about like global governments, how we can improve our current food system and make it more fair for everyone and have and make everyone have an access to healthy food, and but is also respectful for our environment. And well, I also worked a bit before that on human rights with Amnesty International when I was in university. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. All right, Catherine.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Guinavar. I live in Key Largo, Florida. I'm a youth engagement coordinator with Heirs to Our Oceans. I'm also a graduate student at Florida International University. To make a long story short, I study science education and specifically how we can teach science in ways that are more culturally relevant. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Also, we have two Catherines. So Catherine Mangela, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. My name is Catherine Mangela. I'm currently based in Tanzania, East Africa. I am the executive director of Earth Guardians. And Earth Guardians is basically an organization that's based in Colorado, and we train and empower youth throughout the world to be effective leaders at intersections of the environment and climate justice movement. So I literally work with youth on a very daily basis. So I just love seeing all these young faces, and I'm very happy to see my Ugandan sister.
Happy to see you too.
And thanks for joining via the time difference. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when she said she's from Uganda and I'm seeing sun. I was like, what part of Uganda are you calling from? But when she said she's in California.
What time is it there, Catherine?
I don't want to say. It's just late at night.
Well, thank you, regardless.
But I'm a night owl, so it's all good.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with some questions. So one main one that we could all answer. Feel free to just either raise your hand or just jump in, unmute, whatever feels more comfortable for you. How do we involve everyone, especially those most impacted by climate change, in this movement? And I'll put it in the chat too.
Okay. How we can involve everyone, and mostly those that are affected, first of all, is by giving them a platform to speak. I believe all of us having come this far is through speaking out. For example, I from Uganda, East Africa, having spoken about the hunger crisis and food insecurity crisis in Uganda helped me to get this platform. So it being a fact that we, the girls in Africa particularly, have been the most affected, even though boys are there, it has been through us speaking out that we have gotten solutions, that we have gotten hope, that we have involved different stakeholders in the fight to end this problem of climate crisis, causing hunger and starvation, later on forcing us girls into marriage. So basically, it's through being given an opportunity to speak out, and even getting people who are affected most to speak about their experiences, what the problem they faced was, the impacts, and how they have overcome it. Because this is a problem that already happened, that already occurred, that they have lived through. So through them speaking about how they have overcome it and how they are continuously surviving from the conditions they have been going through as a result of climate crisis, is one way we can get people involved, and mostly those that are affected. Thank you so much.
Mahalo, Latifah. I think that's a real struggle today, is that one of the problems we're having is our own behaviors. We make decisions without even considering the consequences for the people they affect. And it's happening so quickly, especially today. One of the things that my elders taught me, my kupuna, that's our term for elder, is heva'a hemoku, hemoku heva'a. An island is a canoe and a canoe is an island. For those familiar with voyaging or on a boat, we understand that it's really speaking to our relationality. We need to manage our resources accordingly in order to go about making the journey. If you want to go things alone, you go fast, but if you really want to get to the distance and get to where you need to go, you need to work together. And that's some of the problems, is we're all forgetting that we're all islanders on this island called Earth, and our resources are limited. And so many times our islands impacted and our respective continents impacted, where people just take, but on the understanding of a canoe, we cannot take too much for our individual selves, because if not, we're all not gonna make it on the journey. So that's really what we need to do, is shift our behaviors to reminding ourselves that we do need to work together, and we need to restore equilibrium in terms of what we take, we need to give back to real full measure as best as we possibly can. Because we shouldn't be taking from communities more than we need. You know, I know Latifah's speaking to her community, and I always think too, like, there's so much renewable energy issues here in Hawaii too, with how we go about making change and what are the resources required to build those. They have to mine minerals, much of which come from Africa, and even in our respective Pacific, where they're now eyeing out our areas for deep sea mining for our resources at the bottom of the seafloor, and how that's going to impact us. Nobody takes it into consideration. So we need to remember that. We need to remember the faces of those we impact, and that's what we really need to call for, is changing our behaviors.
Awesome, we can move right on. Also, if anyone, any of the participants, if they have a question, you can also put them in chat. So feel free and do that if you have any questions. All right, so how can I learn more about getting involved with climate activism organizations, or anyone that's listening?
Pardon?
What was that?
I beg your pardon.
Oh, you didn't hear me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I asked how can I learn more? How can we learn more about getting involved with climate activism organizations? For example, Heirs to Our Oceans or Earth Guardians.
I believe how we can learn more about climate, as in different climate organizations, and more about climate justice is, first of all, like researching. Researching will help us highly learn more, because I believe researching is basically getting to know what is happening on ground. Yes, climate crisis has come. What are the different impacts that have come out of it, and how have the different people that have been highly affected overcome them? Research, get to know, learn, keep on learning, because learning doesn't end. Then associating with different organizations. For example, here as to our oceans, this is a global organization that is coordinating like climate justice across the globe and bringing us different youths from different parts of the world to come and talk about the different problems that have been faced by our different communities as a result of climate crisis and how we have overcome this. And through us speaking out, we are giving out ideas and knowledge like to different people in the world about how they can also solve these very challenges we are experiencing in the different parts of the world, in case they are also experiencing the same. So basically researching, listening to also testimonials of the different people that have overcome this problem of climate crisis. Giving an example of myself, I'm a survivor of unwanted marriage just because of lack of food brought about climate change due to pollution and all that. But me speaking out about how I overcame that through starting up a project called Climate Smart Urban Farming, that alone is teaching and giving hope to very many people in the world. Those that are nearly also facing the same problem, to also try to overcome it using that method, and even those that are also suffering a problem of hunger and starvation, to also start up urban gardens using the very things polluting the environment and recycling, so as to bring about a climate-free environment. So basically speaking out, listening to testimonials, and even coordinating, it being a fact that this is a problem affecting all of us that are residing on Mother Earth. Meaning we have to connect, we have to come together, share knowledge, share resources, because they are limited and they are all for us because we are all residing on it. So share knowledge, connect, understand the impact and the gravity of the different activities and actions we are doing, inform, educate people, because most of them are uneducated. The very majority number that is polluting the environment, that is bringing about climate crisis, is uneducated. So if we educate them, if we give them knowledge, if we connect with them, we can share resources, share ideas, and even get to know, and even involve different organizations that are to help us like solve this whole problem as a globe. Thank you.
If I can add to that, Latifah, thank you so much for what you said, by the way. Like, that was so inspiring. And I'm sure like everybody who's on this call is feeling that right now. I also think like one of the things that really helped me kind of take it into specific actionable steps, I guess, that were very applicable to my community was kind of finding an area of focus for myself under like the umbrella of environmental activism and environmental advocacy, because like that's so broad and it connects to so many different issues, and all of those issues are so important and so intertwined. But I think just in terms of like, if you have, you know, done your research and made a bunch of connections and you're like, okay, I really want to do something. I have a passion for this, like I care about this, my community needs it. I think just finding like, I think for me, I've started to really care a lot about food and finding sustainable ways to grow food. And that kind of happened for me because there's a huge issue with access to clean drinking water in my community. A bunch of our groundwater is contaminated by nitrates, and nitrates are a chemical that often result from agricultural runoff with industrial agriculture. So I was like, this is something that I care a lot about. It's something that affects me personally and a lot of people in my community. And I kind of took that and I was like, what's a solution to that? More sustainable methods of agriculture that don't contaminate our water, that don't harm our land, and don't harm our people. So I think that once you kind of find something that you're really passionate about and that you care about and that affects you, kind of steps to take action will unfold, even if you're like really, really new to, I guess, environmental activism or anything like that. When you find something that you care about and that motivates you and you want to take action for that thing, that helps you kind of get started and launch yourself into that world.
I think if I can add to what has been said, and I'll be speaking from the slightly adult perspective, two things come to mind. One, listening, and two, taking responsibility in the aspect to really acknowledge that the whole climate activism movement and environmental crisis is partly our fault due to things that we failed to do correctly in our time when we were young. And we weren't as vocal as the youth right now are being vocal. So really being able to listen to the youth around us, to listen to the youth within our homes, the youth who are our neighbors, when they say something, we seriously listen, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask questions if we don't understand a certain concept, or if we don't understand how we can really help them in being more vocal, or help them in being part of the change.
Going off of what Catherine said, I really appreciated hearing everyone had to say. It was really great to hear all of everyone's perspectives, and everyone has so much to add. But going off of I feel like youth, I definitely saw this when I was younger, just climate change is such a ginormous issue that cannot be tackled as a whole. You need so many people to tackle all parts of it. So finding, as Shay was saying, kind of finding something that you really care about, the side of climate change that you really want to start focusing on and start working on, is really important for youth. And understanding that you can be involved in any way. There's so many ways to be involved in climate activism, whether it is helping organize protests, or making art to post on social media to get more press, or writing policy, or even going into STEM in the future and trying to find more sustainable things such as those. There's so many sides to this issue of ways to solve it. So it's just important for youth to understand that they don't have to tackle every single part of it. They can just find something that really they feel like this needs to be changed. And then once everyone does that, we will find that throughout the whole movement, more people will be engaging in very different parts, and it'll all come together.
I completely agree that looking at what you can contribute and what your area is a wonderful place to start. And if you're joining here and you're hearing about all these different organizations such as Heirs to Our Oceans, Earth Guardians, 0 Hour, a lot of us have websites, we have social media platforms. That's a really practical place to start looking into what we're currently doing. If that is a place where you see yourself being a good fit, if maybe we have a local chapter or a area that we do work in that you're very interested in. I know that's something that when I was considering that I wanted to take my climate activism from going to protests and strikes to being part of an organization, that I caught on to the names that I heard and started looking more into it and exploring the different platforms that existed to kind of see what is currently happening, if there is a place that I could really fit into easily. And there's so many resources out there once you start looking into these, getting more into, for instance, following the climate pages on social media, or if that's not really your area, that might be more like articles or websites. That is just a really great place just to start looking out there. And there's so much, and so many people are willing to help too. Like if you reach out to the people that you see mentioned in these panels or doing this work, like we're so happy to help people start getting involved.
And if I may add, one thing that I'm really hearing from all the previous speakers is we learn by doing. In doing, we start to build the frameworks of our own community, and in building that community, we create space, and in space, then we can begin movement. So that's really where it's at. You have to go out and do it, be it, live it, and then you start to build the community around you. And from there, we can move forward.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on that? That was great.
I'd like to add something.
Thought to add on to what was said. Sorry, Kate, I'll just be literally 2 seconds. As an organization, we literally try to have speaking engagements in several universities throughout the countries that we work in. So those are places where you can literally just hear about the work that we do as Earth Guardians, but also about the various aspects that you can take part in climate activism. So that's also a good place that if you meet someone who is in the actual movement, you can just approach them, talk to them, and get the conversation started.
Hi, this is Martha. I'm Miss Kelly, and I was listening to your conversation, but there are other situations as well. Not all of us can be activists, so we have to sometimes take on the role of advocate, and that's really a very hard thing to do, but it can be done with finesse. You have to look at things pragmatically, give information, create a safe space for advocacy, and educate as much as you can, and hopefully through your endeavors of being transparent and being I guess a critical thinker and allowing them to have those different objective thinking and critical thinking opportunities. The goal is to give as much information so that they will take ownership of the role and become their own activists for their own selves. Because in the work of outreach and education and activism, many times we find ourselves in a role that is compromised by either the funding sources that we have that are mitigating our work, or even policies, or the mission statement is very, very specific as to what we can and cannot do. So the goal is to have a systemic change, but sometimes it has to be done in a different way. And those pathways are just as strong and just as effective, but without the direct leadership. More on the community taking onus on their own part and ownership for their own outcomes.
Right on. I agree with you in that, and especially with empowering people. And keep the kids thing.
Wait, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Caitlin. I can't hear you at all. Your audio is cutting out, and I think other people might be having the same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe you could turn off your video. That can generally help.
Oh, it might be the earphones too, so maybe the chat might be better.
Yeah.
The
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, while we're fixing that, any other insights or thoughts on that? Let's see. Yeah, Caitlin, if you get that worked out, let us know and we can come back to this. But I'm really interested to know what inspired you to get involved in your climate activism. I know that a few of you have kind of already addressed this, but if you have any other, like, if you have a story or like one moment, like the epiphany moment that really inspired and catalyzed your work, we would love to hear those stories.
Well, I can, like, for me, while I was a catalyst, I think it's mostly my parents' work. They used to be great activists. They founded one of the first CSA in France. And they dragged me and my sister and my brother with them with their activities. And so I had a taste of climate activism very soon in my childhood. But was the most like remarkable thing for me was like once we were in India, just after one of the tsunami, like I think I was in 2005, something like that. I was really little, and we just arrived after the tsunami, and we saw like all the devastation that came after water and the force of it, and just like all the house just down and people lose everything, and a lot of orphans, and just all this, like, it's just a very strong natural disaster. and you really feel like what can happen and how we are like how we don't really matter in front of a force of nature, and just like reminds you about how we are as human and how we are part of it, and just like be humble about who we are. And just like in the climate thing and all my parents' work, just this in like just reminds you about what can happen if we don't do anything, like don't do anything. Just all these lives is gonna be lost. So just like feel even harder the urge to do something, and just like growing through years with IPCC reports and stuff. So just yeah, things like that.
Thank you, Noeline, on that. I, for one, what really inspired me like to start up this, at the age of 13, living in Uganda, Kampala, here in Africa, I was nearly forced into a marriage I did not want. Just because we people in Africa basically depend on agriculture for survival, and farming is what we do for a living. Due to climate crisis taking its course, seasons became difficult to predict. Farmers would no longer have something to plant, and food was scarce. Coming from a family of 5 children, where I happened to be the only girl and the last born, they looked at my price as a bride, helping out like the family into surviving. Because we girls in Africa, our education is not at all valued. So they thought that by marrying me off, them getting dowry as a family, they would survive even without food, even with climate crisis in place. But I did not want this. I had to think so hard of what would be my way out from this problem I'm going to face. I don't want to lose my purity. I don't want to lose my childhood, and I don't want to leave school. I'm a girl advocate. I have to lead by example. What will happen to other girls who look at me, Latifah, as their hope? What is going to happen to the hopes of other girls who look at me, Latifah, as the voice to the voiceless, being married out, being married off, upon the very thing I condemn, child marriage, then being taken off just because a family is lacking food? So I had to think so hard of what would be my way out. So I looked at the two. I'm going to be married off just because we lack food. The soil is no longer productive. No space to farm because industries have been constructed all over. Why don't I use this thing that is polluting my soil? Why don't I use this plastic that is going into the waterways? Hence destruction and pollution. So I resulted to planting food in plastic bottles, planting food in sacks, planting food in clothes that are no longer used, but rather dumped into the landfills. On doing that, food, I gave my family food. I provided a solution to them. They were claiming that we will marry you off because we are no longer farming, we are no longer getting food. Then I brought food to them and even gave them knowledge on how to grow food. They left me alone. They were like, Latifah, but still we have no income source. And maybe if we marry you off, we will get money. So I was like, why don't we sell what we have? Everyone eats, and on eating, we eat tomatoes, we eat vegetables, we eat onions. If this is what we are growing, why don't we sell some? Because we grow in plenty, we can sell the surplus. So they resulted to selling it. Like that, I survived. So knowing that I'm an advocate for millions and thousands of girls who have not been able to survive like I have done, I decided, let me teach this to very many girls. Let me teach this to very many communities. Maybe in my absentia, just a matter of listening to what I'm saying will help them also start this up and survive. Because being here speaking to you, I'm being a voice to thousands and millions of girls in Africa, millions of children in Africa who have not gotten this opportunity to speak out. But this is the true injustice that has been done to us. and it's us to speak about it because it's us facing it. But why are we suffering? Because of the actions that were done by our ancestors, and it's us paying the consequences of them right now. So whenever I think about what I have to do to make it a better place for my generation to come, for my children and grandchildren, I wake up every day and say, I have to plant a tree. I have to create that green environment where there isn't. I have to recycle. Rather than throwing it into water sources, rather than throwing it on the landfills, let me recycle it. Let me put a plant in it. Let me put a green plant in it. A generation will be served. I believe basically us in Africa, this is what we do. But in different parts of the world, people are doing different things that are acting as solutions to the impacts that they are facing as a result of climate crisis. Some people are like bringing about regenerative agriculture, which is fine because that is what they are facing. I believe a journey of 1,000 miles will start with one step. And that step is me speaking out. That step is me educating the world. That step is me ensuring that everyone gets to know about climate smart urban farming because it's a no cost, do it yourself farming method through which we people from low income urban settings are able to attain food, are able to get a living, a decent one. Basically, we the girls are able to survive injustices such as forced child marriages, being denied an education just because I'm a girl, being trafficked just because I'm a girl, in search for food, in search for money. So that alone makes me want to do it on a daily. That alone inspires me that if I don't act now, the very problems I'm facing are the very problems the generation to come are going to face. Right now, we the youths are suffering the impacts of climate crisis because our ancestors did not do enough. And if we also don't act now, meaning the generation to come is also going to face the same problems. But if we come together and join hands, join efforts from all over the world, and try to fight climate crisis in whatever way we can do so, meaning at least we'll be creating a better and safe space to call home for the generation to come. I believe change is a gradual process that cannot come at once, but can come with a step. So all of us, let us be the ones to take that step. Let's continuously be the voices to the voiceless, speaking about this, being given out to the communities. This alone acts like information and education and knowledge to the different people that are facing the very problems we have faced and we have acted out solutions for. So for me in Uganda, climate smart urban farming is something I started, and it's really helping us in finding food security and even bringing about a green environment where there isn't one. We are also recycling and ensuring that with the little water sources we have, with the little pure water we have, we are able to maintain it and keep it safe. Just with one step, just with me acting out, a nation has been saved. I believe if everyone is to act out in the different destinations they are coming from, we will all together, one day, one time, finish off this man called climate crisis. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful, Latifah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for your transparency. And thank you for your empowerment, because we forget about the stories that are all layered upon this issue of climate crisis. For some of us, we have, some discomfort, but realizing that some of these decisions that are being placed upon our young women in other parts of the world because of such a thing as climate crisis, it's mind-blowing. And it's such an awesome thing that you have done, and what a courageous thing you did to step forward and think. Like you said, I had to think. I was so moved when you were saying I had to think. And what is it we say? Necessity is the mother of invention. So you truly took that to a different level. And when I think about children and how we use egg crates and we make little seedlings and we start, I will look at those little plants in a whole different light, and I will think of you, Latifah. So thank you so much for sharing.
Anyone else want to share their story or stories? All right, this is kind of a fun question that I like to ask. If you had a magic wand, what would you change about the world? Like, what one thing would you change about the world?
Well, I think like there's something, a lot of things are a bit hard right now in our world, but if there is one thing I would say, open our heart, because I think it's really the biggest problem in our world right now is because we don't let our heart to speak, and it led us to the situation we are right now. If we were compassionate, if we let our love to our planet, to our people we love speaks, we would not talk about how to take climate action right now. We're just like, we're doing actions and all together and don't have like to fight for with other a group of people to allow us to be heard by our governments to do actions. Just like would be just something intuitive, because it will be just her heart who would speaking. So yeah, I would just say, yeah, couldn't like let people speak with their heart and their love. Yeah, it would be bad, I think.
Mahalo Noe. Oh, go.
Thank you. I'm really so sorry. I, for one, if I had that magic word, what I would change would be our nature of living, our mindset. Because if we are to really look at what has brought about these very many problems we are trying to solve, it all started with our mindset. How I wish people just know that we do not need buildings. We just need trees. We do not need roads. We just need food, plants. And they should like stop cutting them down and putting up buildings, because we can't eat buildings. Buildings can't produce rainfall. Buildings can't grow food. That alone would help us solve this. So if we try to like change the mindset of the different policymakers, of the different people that reside on Mother Earth, and bring them to know the need and the sense in us having a green environment rather than us having industries all over that are polluting our natural environment, that alone would make this world a better place. So it's a matter of us changing the mindset. If I were in power, at least I would say there should not be anything like construction, but rather planting of trees, growing of food, putting up green and green and green, and even understanding the law of nature. Because nature does not need us to survive. We need nature to survive. And if we don't keep it safe, if we don't protect it, meaning we will never survive. Because we need it, it does not need us. Even without us human beings on planet Earth, it can still continuously live and survive. But without planet Earth, we humans cannot live. How I wish everyone understands that. This world will be a better place. We do not need buildings. We do not need roads. We do not need houses, but rather we need plants. We need trees. We need food, and we need green. I'm sorry to say this, but early man lived without a house. The early man in Africa lived without a road. He lived without a building, but he survived. Planet Earth was a safe place. But we people of nowadays, our poor mindset is making us face all these challenges and creating more problems for the generation to come. So if we don't change our mindsets now, meaning we are laying ahead problems for our generation to come. Mother Earth does not need us to survive. We need it to survive, we as the humans. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Latifah. I just like have this words, like this phrase of a biologist I just heard, and I wanted to share it because I think it's really good with what you just said. You said that if the ants were to disappear, we will notice it because they have a huge impact in our ecosystem and really important in the health of the ecosystem. But if humans were to disappear, the ants wouldn't notice at all that humans disappear. So I just like thought about it and it was like, oh yeah, that's the true.
Yeah, mahalo Latifah, that's truly inspiring. And I think one thing that I really took away is you're reminding us that indigeneity and the understanding of also where we come from is beyond the conversation of just, I know nowadays indigeneity gets caught up in racial identity and those conversations, racial conversations, but really it's a story about our continuity. And if I had that magic wand too, just like you, I'd shift the behaviors. What is the metrics of success? What are our target goals? Is it to raise the GDP? Is it just to drop global emissions? Or are we really talking about something that our kupuna have talked about, our ancestors have told us? The 3 metrics of success are our children fed? Are we giving them everything that they need physically, but also intellectually to survive? The second, do our women feel safe? Do they feel comfortable in order to even raise their family, to go about walking down the street themselves? Because if they don't feel comfortable, then something's wrong, because our wahine are the real core of our society. Without them, there is no continuity. And the third is, do our elders feel comfortable? Are they living comfortably? Are they cared for? In these 3 understandings, we bring back balance. And that's not the metrics of success today. And, you know, as much as there's all these other issues of, oh, this matters more than the other, if we value those 3 things, then everything of how we structure society will come back to balance, into reliving our lives and the understanding that we're one with nature and we require the relationality with ourselves in order to ensure our continuity.
I was also thinking about behaviors. If youth priorities were acted upon, that would already make an enormous difference in the world, because we have been asking over and over again for climate action and climate justice in the ways that we really need it. And so if we were able to make that change so that we were not only listened to, but our demands were acted upon, that would make already a massive difference.
You actually just said kind of what I would do with my magic wand. I would implement climate education into every school and everywhere around the world, just because without the knowledge, no one can create the change, and which is just such a problem, especially just as generations are starting to learn, especially with in the past, there's a recent past, and now even there's a lot of talk about like your personal carbon footprint, which is very important. And it's very important to recycle, use less water, and live a sustainable life. But it doesn't talk about how systemic of an issue climate change truly is, and how you actually need to have systemic actions to create that systemic change. And as I said, it's really important to do those little things every single day. If schools actually taught more about taught kids that how to do this systemic action and participate in systemic ways, it would very much help them become more confident in their own activism in their future. So I think that's just something that's so important and that really needs to be integrated into our society. And that's what I would do with my magic wand.
Hi, this is Martha. I listen to all of what you're saying, and I think it's such a beautiful, all these things that you're all bringing forward are important. I kind of tend to pull more for the indigenous ways of permaculture. I believe that we were given the way to be and how to live in harmony with our environment, and we pulled away from that existence. And the methodology was given to us from our forefathers. Our ancestors were here, and they were teaching us how to live in harmony with every system that we have: water, land, our vegetation, our marine life. Everything had a way of being, and we pulled so far away from it and stopped being caretakers of the earth that this has happened. And I think that what you said about education in the school system in the United States and California in particular, we've adopted, there are already different groups, environmental justice groups that are creating curriculum, and they are going to bring environmental justice into the curriculum for K through 12. Why? Well, because we need it. We need to have accountability for all our children at a basal level from the beginning. You can't just like a plant, you can't cut and prune it after it's grown. You have to do it as it begins to come up as a seedling. You start kind of directing its path, and soon it becomes a tall, thriving tree. If you try to prune it after it's already gone wayward, it's very hard. It may grow, but it will always remember that path that it went to, and it'll always follow that turn. So it's important to remember that we can change, but we will always know that we had something to do with what is happening now. And I say this in all ways, because a lot of times we isolate and think that because we live in another part of the world, that our world is just our world. But we don't understand sometimes that every little bit of particulate matter floats and flies away and ends up on the other side of the earth. And folks that are counting.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Everywhere. So anything, I would stop the clock and I would say, everyone just be awakened and be cognizant of important.
Thank you. All right, there was a question that came in via the registration. I want to make sure we get to that. I do know we've got about 6 minutes left. So the one that came in via the chat was, what are we doing to reduce the carbon footprint on companies that Americans have overseas? I don't know if anyone wants to address that, if you know.
Maybe I can comment on that, because we have operations, or rather we have groups located in other parts of the world as well, in Europe, Asia, and Africa. But I think I'll be addressing it from the standpoint of not what we are doing, but what can be done. I think right now what I'm seeing is being done is a lot of companies are coming to their branches overseas with solutions themselves, saying that this is something that we want to implement. This is what we think needs to be done to reduce carbon footprint in our companies, not really taking into consideration that the regions or countries they're going to overseas don't really understand the concept. And the solutions are being brought from the standpoint of the states and not really the standpoint of the location of the company. So for instance, if you're coming with a perspective of the states wanting to solve or reduce carbon footprint in Africa, the likelihood that you'll succeed is minimum, because you don't really understand exactly how Africans view carbon footprint, how they think it needs to be solved from their perspective. So how we're addressing it is mainly looking at the people on the ground. How best do they think that they can solve this issue? Do they even think that there is an issue that needs to be solved? Because if they don't understand that it's an issue that needs to be solved, any solution that is brought is good as useless.
Thank you so much, Catherine. From my perspective, as someone who is like still young, what I think can be done is, first of all, like realizing that, yes, and appreciating the fact that industrialization is a sense of urbanization that we all need to learn to live with. But besides an industry, put up a tree, bring up some bit of green. For example, in my background, there is a lot of green, meaning even with an industry in place, pollution won't be that costly like a place that is not having anything like green. Because remember, plants can help us like cut down carbon emissions. And even with the other industries that are not having the green environment, create one so that we mitigate and minimize the impacts of carbon emissions. And also at least let there be filters, like filters that can like filter the air that goes up to the atmosphere, so that we can reduce on the impacts of what? Of carbon emission onto our ozone layer, and even holding these countries, like these companies, accountable. For example, the Coca-Cola companies, even companies that operate on beverages and even use plastics in terms of like packaging their products. What next after customers are done using your product? Do you have like follow-up programs of after them using our product, this is where they can dispose of the wastes, this is where they can dispose of the plastics, this is how they can recycle? Meaning that as they produce or as they do production in plenty to get a lot of money and make profits, let them also be held accountable of what next after their product being consumed by the community. Because if we are not mistaken, it's the very people that consume these products that are going to pollute, like dump and dispose them in our water sources. Most of them are uninformed, most of them are ignorant, most of them have not been educated by these beverage making industries, but rather they have been supplied to drinks without even being given an awareness of what next, that you can recycle this product, that you can put it back to us and we reuse it, you can plant a tree in it, but rather with ignorance, they will go and dump them in our water sources. And we are going to continuously sing a song of climate change, recycling. But if the people that are the final consumers of these products that are being produced by these industries are not educated, are not informed that you can recycle that plastic bottle, you can plant a green plant in that plastic bottle, or you can take it back to the industry and they reuse it. Hence, that means the company won't produce more plastics, but rather will reuse what you have already taken back. That alone will be a solution. Recycle, reuse, and reduce. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it sounds like we have one question. If you all want to stick around, the panelists, if you want to stick around at the end for a group picture, someone asked if we could make that happen. But it is 4 o'clock and I have so many more questions. So we might have to have like a round 2 or something, maybe at a more reasonable time for Catherine. Maybe we can do it 3 o'clock a.m. here, so it's a reasonable hour for you. So again, thank you all so much for attending. I feel so inspired. I don't know if everyone else is feeling the same way. I feel inspired, but I also feel somewhat guilty because I feel like I'm not doing enough as you youth. You are all beautiful. Catherine, you're doing a great job too. Both Catherines, so many Catherines. So thanks everyone for attending, for being on the panel and participants, and for engaging in the chat and everything. So once again, thank you. And if we could stick around at the end for a group photo, that would be awesome. Thanks everyone.
Hallelujah.
All right, Catherine. So do you want to do this on your end, or should we both do some screenshots?
I've communicated with Lydia. Since I'm on my phone, I can't do it.
Okay.
She'll
I can take some on my errand.
Okay. Do you want to tell us when?
Yeah, let me get my screenshot ready. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Beautiful.
All right. I might do one on our end too. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. All right. Thank you all so much again. This was fantastic. I'm inspired, and you all are beautiful people. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Meet everyone.